Please be seated. I'll ask our jurors again, did you follow my instructions not to talk about the case with anybody else or look up any of the people or places involved? Even if you did so inadvertently, now would be the time to raise your hand and let me know. For the record, no jurors lifted their hand. First witness.
State House, Jamie Nolen.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you please state your full name for the record?
I'm Detective Jamie Nolen.
And how do you spell your first name
Jamie
and your last name?
Nolen.
Okay. And where are you employed, sir?
I work for the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
And in what capacity do you work there?
I work as an investigator.
And as an investigator, what do your duties entail?
My duties have changed since this case started, but at the time of this case, I was a homicide investigator.
And what are your duties? What are your duties currently?
I now work for the Criminal Investigations Division.
How long have you been a Lee County Sheriff's deputy?
Since February of 2003, so nearly 17 years.
And at the time of the investigation involving Dr. Teresa Sievers, how long had you been an investigator?
About 9 years.
Okay. Did you become involved in an investigation at 27034 Jarvis Road on June 29th of 2015?
Yes, I did.
And how did you become involved in that investigation?
At that time, I was the lead investigator. I was the on-call detective that day when a death investigation call came out at that address. And
why is it significant that you were the on-call investigator that day?
We all take turns being on-call detectives, and that was significantly my day that I was on call.
Okay, so if you're on call and a homicide gets called in, you're the person who gets called to respond to it?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Any kind of death investigation, whether it's a suicide, natural death, or a homicide, will be called out to investigate those crimes.
And do you recall approximately what time you got called to the scene on Jarvis Road?
I remember arriving on the scene probably around 11 o'clock in the morning.
And when you arrived at 11 o'clock in the morning, was there anybody present?
There was a Dr. Mark Petrides and several Lee County Sheriff's Office deputies.
And were you able to determine who Dr. Mark Petrides was?
Yes, I was. I spoke with him, interviewed him, found out that he was a friend of the family.
It's not being offered for its truth. It's going
Overruled. Move along.
Did you determine who Dr. Mark Petrides was?
Yes, he was a friend of the Sievers family.
And how was it that the sheriff's office was called to that scene?
Initially, it came in as a death investigation. So we were called. We were unaware that it was a homicide at that time. I arrived on scene, was told that there was a female laying on the ground in the kitchen. I donned gear, booties, so as to not contaminate the scene, and gloves. Entered the scene via the garage, and walked into the kitchen where I observed Ms. Sievers laying on the floor.
And what state was she in when you observed her laying on the floor?
She was obviously deceased, laying in the prone position.
And for those of us who don't know investigative lingo, can you explain to the members what the prone position is?
I mean, she was laying face down.
Getting back to Dr. Petrides, was he on scene when you arrived there?
Yes, he was.
Was he the reason why you were there?
Yes, sir.
And So now you're on scene. Was there anybody else in the home?
Nobody else in the home. No, there were some pets, but they were out on the patio.
Did you have an opportunity to at least conduct some kind of a preliminary investigation into Dr. Petritis?
Yes, I did. I spoke with him. I obtained an interview with him from inside my patrol car, where I obtained a digitally recorded statement from him. I also obtained a Buccal Swab, which is where I obtained via kind of cotton wool buds, where we obtained skin cells from his mouth that we used for DNA comparisons. That's pretty much it.
Okay. So you obtained a Buccal Swab from Dr. Petritis?
Yes, sir.
Sustained.
Can you tell the jury, you mentioned earlier that you obtained some kind of swab from Dr. Petritis. Can you tell the jury what that was?
We have what we call Buccal Swabs, which are especially like cotton wool buds, where they clear your ears out, but they're a bit longer. Like cotton wool buds, would clear your ears out.
And Detective Nolen, we all have a strong accent here in the courtroom, so let me ask you to slow down so you can understand us, okay? And so I think the question was, can you explain to the members what a Buccal Swab is?
Oh yes, I was just trying to explain layman terms. It's a swab where I obtain skin cells from inside the mouth by rolling two buds together, and then we put them into a box, send them off to the FDLE, who compare them with items we find at the scene.
Okay. All right. So you swabbed Dr. Petritis' mouth for DNA?
Yes, sir.
Overruled.
I'm sorry. I don't know if they heard your answer. You swabbed Dr. Petritis' mouth for DNA?
Yes, I did.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 22. Previously been shown to the defense, Your Honor. And ask if you recognize number 22.
I think so. This is the Buccal Swab that I obtained from...
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
Ask if you recognize what's in number 22.
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's a Buccal Swab that was obtained from Dr. Petritis and placed into an evidence wrapper, paper, so that it doesn't contaminate the Buccal Swab. It's got the writing, which is my handwriting. It's also got evidence tape, which shows that it's been sealed, which I have signed my signature on to show that it hasn't been tampered with or unsealed, and this has not been unsealed.
All right, Your Honor, at this time, the state would move to admit what's been previously identified as States 22 in evidence as States 22.
Defense.
Yes, objection, foundation, Your Honor.
Overruled. We'll show it admitted.
Okay. All right, so after you had an opportunity to speak with Dr. Petritis, was he allowed to leave or was he taken into custody?
No, he was eventually allowed to leave. I did search his vehicle. He allowed me to go in there, see if there was any kind of contamination, any blood. And so we checked that, checked his clothing, and then he was allowed to go on his way.
And what kind of contamination were you looking for in his vehicle?
Any kind of blood, hair that didn't belong. There was a white surgery coat in a doctor's jacket in there. So we looked at that. You know, if there had any blood in it, it may have transferred over.
And when you say it might have transferred over, was there blood inside the home at 27034 Jarvis Road?
Yes, there was.
Was it a lot of blood or a little bit of blood?
There was a lot of blood.
And so when you said you were checking for contamination, what does that mean?
That means that if, with the amount of blood, there was a possibility that the blood would have transferred to the suspect or the person who did this.
So you're looking to see if any of the blood from inside the home may have somehow...
Objection, leading.
I'm asking a question.
Finish your question first.
You were checking to see if somehow the blood from inside the home or traces of the blood from inside the home had somehow made it into his vehicle?
Objection
Yes.
leading.
Overruled.
Yes, sir.
And did you find any evidence that the blood from the home had made it into the vehicle?
No, I did not.
Okay, so after you were finished discussing the scene with Dr. Petritis, did you have an opportunity to find out who, if anybody else, lived in that home?
Yes, I did. Part of the conversation with Dr. Petritis found out that Miss Sievers.
Objection, hearsay.
Not offering it for its truth, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure.
Okay, so did you have an opportunity to determine who, if anybody else, lived in the home?
Yes, I did. During a sworn statement that I obtained from Dr. Petritis, he advised that
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
he advised that he'd received a call from Mark Sievers, Teresa Sievers' husband, to
Were you able to obtain Mr. Sievers' contact information from Dr. Petritis during that discussion?
yes, we did.
And then were you able to make contact with Mark Sievers?
Yes, we did.
And where did you make contact with, or how did you make contact with him?
It was via telephone because he was out of state.
And when did you make contact with Mark Sievers?
It was sometime in the early afternoon.
Of the 29th of June,
Yes, sir.
2015?
Yes, sir.
And when you spoke to Mr. Sievers, did you tell him what was happening at his home?
I don't believe so. Not that time, no, sir. We just said that his wife had been injured and that he needed to come home.
You didn't tell Mr. Sievers that his wife had been killed?
I wasn't.
Leading.
Overruled.
I wasn't. I don't believe I was the actual person that spoke to him at that time. He was one of the other investigators.
Okay, were you present when the discussion was had?
Yes, I was.
And did Mr. Sievers actually come back to Florida from wherever he was?
Yes, he did.
Did you get to make contact with him when he came back?
Yes, I did.
And where did you make, when did you make contact with him when he came back?
It was about 7 o'clock on June 29th, 2015, at his mother's house.
Okay. And that was here in Lee County?
It was in Bonita Springs, Lee County, sir.
And is the home where the investigation was started, is that also in Lee County?
That's in Bonita Springs, Lee County, yes, sir.
And when you made initial contact with Mr. Sievers, did you then tell him that his wife was deceased?
Yes, sir.
And then did you then have a subsequent discussion with Mr. Sievers?
Yes, sir. We obtained a sworn, digitally recorded statement from him.
And then that was on the 29th at 7 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
But then did you have another discussion with him?
We had another discussion several days later.
And where did that second discussion occur?
That was at the Lee County Sheriff's Office headquarters.
And during that second discussion, did Mr. Sievers disclose that he had possession of a cell phone?
Yes, he did.
And let me ask you a little bit about cell phones. At that time, are cell phones a relevant factor in a police investigation?
Objection, Your Honor. 401, 403. May we approach?
Sure.
Okay. Detective Nolen, did you have a meeting with Mr. Sievers on July 1st?
Yes, I did.
And during that meeting, did you have an opportunity to ask Mr. Sievers if he had a cell phone?
Yes, I did.
And did he in fact have a cell phone?
Yes, he did.
And did you ask if if the sheriff's office could conduct a forensic examination of his cell phone?
I did. I'd had him sign a Lee County Sheriff's Office consent to search form, which allows us to search his cell phone.
And well, the first question is did you offer him anything in exchange to even talk to you?
No, sir.
Was he threatened or given anything in exchange to talk to you?
No, sir.
You said you asked him for consent to search his cell phone. Was he threatened or offered anything in exchange for signing a consent form?
No, sir.
He did it of his own free will?
Yes, sir. He was free to go at any time, sir.
Do you see Mark Sievers in court today?
I do.
Can you please identify Mark Sievers and point to Mr. Sievers and identify him by an article of clothing?
Absolutely. He has a blue jacket on with a yellow tie.
May the record reflect that the witness has identified Mark Sievers.
Let the record so reflect.
I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 24. Has previously been shown to the defense. And ask if you recognize number 24.
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is the Lee County Sheriff's Office consent to search cellular phone affidavit.
And is that the affidavit that was is that the form that was given to Mr. Sievers?
Yes, it was.
And did he have an opportunity to read it?
Yes, he did.
Did he appear to understand it after he read it?
Yes, sir.
And did he then sign it and grant consent for access to his phone?
He signed it and printed his name. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time the state would admit what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 24 and evidence as State's 24.
Objection foundation.
Overruled. Will show it admitted.
Now, during the course of your two discussions with Mr. Sievers, did you have an opportunity to learn from him where in fact he was at the time that Dr. Sievers was killed?
Yes, I did.
And where was he?
He was at his mother-in-law's house in New York.
And were you able to determine from him whether or not there were any security devices, alarm systems, or other similar type devices in his home?
Yes, I did.
And did you have that discussion with him?
Yes, we did.
Was there anybody, when you talked to him, was there anybody who was accessing his home while he was away?
Yes, there was.
Who did he tell you who it was?
Yes, he did.
Who?
His mother, Bonnie Sievers, she was checking on his dogs for him.
What did the Sievers home have an alarm system?
Yes, it did.
And did he tell you whether his mother had access to that alarm system?
He had provided her with a keypad number for it.
And was this the kind of alarm system that's built into the home, or was it some other type of alarm system?
It was built into the home.
With the sensors and the keypad and all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you see it yourself?
Yes, I did.
And did you have an opportunity to discuss with him whether there had been any issues or problems with his alarm system during the weekend of the 27th and 28th, the Saturday the 27th and the Sunday the 28th?
I don't believe I did it. No, sir.
So as far as you knew, the alarm system was working?
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the investigation. Were you able to ask Mr. Sievers if he knew who had killed his wife?
Yes, I did.
And did he tell you who?
He stated he didn't know why anybody wanted to hurt his wife, let alone kill her.
Now, while you were talking, well, between the 29th, when you arrived on scene at the home, and the July 1st, when you had your second discussion with Mark Sievers, had he been given access to his home?
No, sir. It was still under being searched and by our crime scene unit. They were obtaining evidence.
So when he came back when you called him and told him to come back, he never actually got a chance to go into his home before you spoke to him?
No, sir.
Overruled.
When you asked him to come back, he never actually got a chance to go into his home before you spoke to him?
No, he didn't. It was several days. Our crime scene unit were working in there.
So when your crime scene unit is working the scene, they don't let civilians into the scene?
No, they don't. We have deputies that sit outside the house because it's a crime scene, and they make sure that nobody enters our crime scene.
And at some point, did you start an investigation into any potential life insurance policies on Teresa Sievers?
I did question Mr. Sievers about that during our digital recorded statement. He said that he did have they had life insurance on each other, and so I did subpoena several companies, approximately 5 companies.
He gave you the names of the companies?
No, our analyst ran an insurance background check and found about five companies.
And then, did you then request records from those companies?
Yes, I did.
And what's the method that you used to request those records?
We used subpoenas, which are sent through the court system, and are then sent to the insurance companies. I advised them that we were involved in an investigation.
And what were the names of the insurance companies that you subpoenaed for records regarding Dr. Sievers?
State Farm, Ohio National, Prudential, Jackson National Life, and Hartford Business General.
And in addition to, and let me back up now. When did you actually get Mr. Sievers' phone?
Yes, we did.
All right. Your Honor, this time, if I haven't done it, I'd move to admit what's been previously identified as State's Exhibit Number 24. I did. Okay. And evidence of State's 24.
It's previously been admitted.
Okay. And when you requested his phone, what did you do with it?
We take it to our digital forensics unit, which are down at our evidence building, and it's given to technicians down there so that they can download the contents of it, which also includes anything that may be deleted off it and still on the hard drive.
Okay. And after Mr. Sievers' phone was taken to the digital forensics unit, what did you do with his phone?
Eventually it was returned to him.
So you gave him back the phone?
Yes, sir.
And you told us earlier that you had requested buccal swabs or cheek swabs from Dr. Petritis.
Yes, sir.
Did you also request to obtain those from Mr. Sievers as well?
Yes, sir.
And did you in fact obtain buccal swabs from Mr. Sievers?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit Number 23. It's previously been shown to the defense. And I'd ask if you recognize number 23.
Yes, sir, I do.
What is it?
This is a Buccal Swab, which is packaged in paper packaging with my name and handwriting on it, which has got the tape on there, which shows the seal. You can see by the yellow tape that it has been opened at some point, probably by FDLE, and they have also signed it after.
Okay, and that's the actual buccal swab you obtained?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, this time we would admit what's been previously identified as State's Exhibit Number 23 and the evidence of State's 23.
No objection, Your Honor.
Show it admitted.
Now, in addition to doing the downloading Mr. Sievers' phone, did you also make an attempt to gather records from his cell phone provider?
Yes, we did.
And how do you do that?
We send a search warrant off to his company, which would been at AT&T. We send them off for basically a certain time frame, certain dates. I believe we did 6 months at that point, 6-7 months. So we send off for those records, which include any text messaging, SMS, text messaging, phone calls, and data locations.
And did you obtain from Mr. Sievers, were you actually able to obtain his actual phone number so that you could make that request?
Yes, sir.
What was his phone number?
It was 314-239-0173.
Now, were you able, during your investigation, were you able to determine whether or not Dr. Sievers actually had a phone?
Yes, we did.
Was the actual phone located?
I don't recall. I'm sorry.
How did you determine whether or not she had a phone?
Mr. Sievers, his telephone showed her name on his phone, and Mr. Petritis also.
And did you also have an opportunity to request the cell phone records for Teresa Sievers as well, as a result?
I believe so, yes, sir.
All right, what was her number?
Her telephone number is 727-421-7736.
Okay. Now, while you were still, at some point, you were reassigned.
Yes, sir.
And when you were reassigned, did you go to a different division or something?
Yes, sir. This one I went to CID, sir.
Okay. And when did that happen in relation to the June 29, 2015 investigation that started?
That wasn't until February, sir.
Okay. And so you were still handling search warrants and working as part of a team between June 29th and February?
Yes, sir. I was having some personal issues at home that I was unable to go further on with the investigation at that time.
And just to elaborate on further on, at some point, did your investigation take Lee County Sheriff's deputies to Illinois?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and how did Lee County Sheriff's Office end up in Illinois from an investigation in Bonita Springs?
Objection, Your Honor, personal knowledge?
Overruled.
One night we were working late at the office on the investigation, and we received a telephone call from Illinois Airport Authority, Chief Hamilton.
And did you speak to Chief Hamilton yourself?
I did.
And without telling me what was said, what was the purpose of the call?
Objection, hearsay?
Overruled.
Chief Hamilton advised that he had an acquaintance.
Hearsay?
What was the
Overruled.
Chief Hamilton advised that he had an acquaintance that may have some information.
And did he give you the name of the acquaintance?
He did. I don't recall her name. At that time, we only had a first name, and we conducted a three-way call.
And did you actually also have a conversation with the person who Chief Hamilton was calling about?
Yes, we do.
And as a result of that discussion, what happened?
We found out this lady lived in Illinois,
Objection, hearsay?
Overruled.
and detectives, at the time, Detectives Downs and Sergeant Lebed traveled to Illinois to obtain a personal face-to-face interview with her.
And because you weren't able to go at that time?
No, sir.
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Your Honor, we tender the witness.
Defense.
Good afternoon, Detective Nolen.
Good afternoon.
So, sir, I think you testified earlier that you had been working in homicide for approximately 9 years. At
No,
the
sir.
time. How long had you been in homicide?
Homicide up to then, I've been there probably about 3 years,
3 years?
sir.
Okay. And at that time, how many homicides had you had occasion to work on?
Personally and what, assisting?
Yes.
Numerous. I couldn't tell you how many, sir.
Okay. You said you went to the crime scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
And while you were there, you met with one of the crime scene techs, Kimberly Van Waus, correct?
Not initially, no, sir. I initially met with Mark Petridis, Dr. Mark Petridis.
Okay.
Eventually, once the crime scene unit came out there, I met with Kim Van Waus, yes.
And you said you put on your gloves and your booties and you did an initial walkthrough.
Sir, that's before I was with Kim Van Waus.
Okay. When you did your initial walkthrough, did you disturb anything?
No, sir.
Did you touch anything?
No, sir.
Is it fair to say that the crime scene, when crime scene tech Van Waus was able to photograph that crime scene, was in the same condition as it was when you did your initial walkthrough?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You said there was a lot of blood.
Yes, sir.
And is it fair to say that with this type of trauma, you would expect to see what we call cast off?
I'm not a blood.
Objection.
He can answer. Well, I think he was giving an answer anyway. Go ahead.
I'm not a blood spatter expert, sir.
Okay.
It'd be of my opinion.
But in your opinion, you were surprised that there wasn't cast off, correct?
Objection. Calls for an opinion.
Sustained.
You said the person's body, Teresa's body, was still present, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've had training in medical as well as legal issues with homicide, is that correct?
Medical, as you mean, what, sir?
As far as reviewing crime scenes, correct?
I'm not understanding the medical part.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Before you went to the homicide unit, what type of training did you undergo?
I went to police academy.
Okay.
I was a gang investigator, a narcotics investigator. I'd done numerous drug courses and gang investigation courses.
Did becoming a homicide investigator require any special or additional training?
Yes, sir. Did death investigation courses and medical legal in Miami.
Okay, so you said medical legal in Miami.
Yes.
Okay, what does that entail?
Basically, you go there and you learn about violent crimes, suicides, other death investigations, just from experts in the field.
Okay. So, when you first did the walkthrough, were you able to come up with any conclusions about how the murder was committed?
Not at that time, no, sir. I mean, there are obvious signs there how it may have happened, but not at that time until the medical examiner took over.
Okay, and the obvious signs were there was a hammer with hair wrapped around it that was lying several feet away from a dead body, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so was your first instinct, I believe that this person was murdered with a hammer?
It looked that way, yes, sir.
Okay, and when someone is murdered with a hammer, is it very common in those instances to see what we call as cast off?
Objection. Again, calls for an opinion, lacks foundation.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Your objection's overruled. He can answer.
Sir, when someone is murdered with a hammer, is it very common to see the presence of cast off?
This is only an opinion, but there's many factors to take into account. There could be some kind of depending on the angle of the blows, it depends where that cast-off goes.
Okay, and when I say cast off, can you tell the jury what I mean when I say cast off?
Cast-off is where there's impact with the victim, if there's, and she obviously has bleeding. If there's a hammer, you expect to see some kind of blood coming off the hammer as spray, but there's a lot of factors that go into that. Hair length, clothing, obstructions in the way, or angle of blows.
And cast off is caused by the centrifugal force of an object moving in motion, correct?
Objection. Again, calls for an opinion and lacks foundation.
Sustained.
You said you were not the one who actually was on the phone with Mr. Sievers when that call was made, is that correct?
Correct. I don't recall making a telephone call. So
Okay, so if you don't remember making the call, you don't recall if he was told that his wife had been injured, sorry, if his wife was killed, correct?
Yeah, I don't recall, sir.
Oh, thank you, nothing further.
State,
Nothing further from the state.
is this witness to be released or retained?
He's free to go, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I asked that he be retained.
Okay, you're subject to recall. Thank you, Detective.
Thank you, sir.
We'll let you know if you're needed again.
Thank you.
Next witness.
He calls Kim Van Waus.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, I do. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Kimberly Van Waus.
And would you spell your last name?
V-A-N space W-A-U-S.
And where do you work?
I work at the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you worked at the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I started with the Sheriff's Office in September 2001.
And in what capacity or capacities have you worked at the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I started as a records assistant, then I moved into the evidence room where I was an evidence custodian, and then in October 2006, I began in crime scene as a crime scene technician.
And what does a crime scene technician do?
We respond to crime scenes where we process a crime scene, document, and collect all the evidence.
Were you called out to a crime scene at 27034 Jarvis Road?
Yes, I did.
And when were you called out to that crime scene?
On June 29th, 2015.
And when you are called out to a crime scene, do you have a certain method or procedure that you follow for every crime scene?
Yes, I do.
And what is that method or procedure that you use?
To generalize what I do, it's documentation, assessment, collection, and processing is the best way to describe it.
And when you and is that about the order in which you do those?
Yes.
When you say documentation, what do you mean by documentation?
I document a crime scene in a variety of ways. It's mostly photographs, but we also take rough notes, we take video, we have a 3D scanner that scans the entire crime scene, and I also do a diagram.
And when do you begin an assessment? Or when do you begin an assessment? Because that was the second one you listed, correct?
Yes. The assessment stage actually begins when I'm documenting the crime scene, because as I'm documenting that crime scene, I'm looking.
And what is assessment? I think you just sort of began to talk about it, but what is assessment?
So when you're on a crime scene, you don't know all the facts, so you're assessing everything. You're looking around, you're looking at the house, you're looking at possible pieces of evidence. I'm assessing the situation and my surroundings, trying to figure out what I'm going to be collecting and processing later.
Well, let's talk about when you responded on June 29th to 27034 Jarvis Road. How did you approach that particular crime scene? What were your first steps?
My very first step is always to meet with the detective if he's on scene.
And did you do that in this particular case?
Yes, I did.
And why do you meet with the detective?
There's usually pieces of information that I need to know before I start documenting and processing a crime scene. There might be pieces of information he received from first responders or things that he noted that I might need to know for my documentation purposes.
And after having spoken with the detective, how did you approach this particular crime scene?
I approach this crime scene as I do most others from the exterior.
And when you say you approached it from the exterior, what do you mean?
I always start my photographs from the outside of the residence, usually in the roadway, and I do the entire perimeter of the exterior of the residence before I go inside.
And did you do that in this case?
Yes, I did.
And was there any particular area outside that you ended up focusing on or spending more time in terms of documentation?
Yes, there was.
And what was that area?
That was the south garage door of the residence on the south side of the residence.
And what led you to spend more time at that particular area of the exterior?
During my briefing with the detective, when I arrived on scene, he did tell me about the condition of that door. There was damage to the door and how it was found from first responders.
Now, after documenting that, what was your next step? Did you enter into either the garage or the residence?
After I documented the exterior of the residence, yes, I went into the residence through the garage.
And did you document as you were going through the garage, or did you document as you were going through the residence?
Both.
Now, before you entered in through the garage, did you take any or put on any protective gear?
Absolutely, yes.
And what did you put on?
For especially homicide scenes, we always wear gloves, nitrile gloves, and in this case, we also were wearing Tyvek booties, which are shoe covers that go over our shoes when we go into a residence.
So and you did that in this case?
Yes, I did. Every single person did.
Did you say you entered through the garage?
Before entering inside, yes, I went through the garage.
Did you document? Did you take photos of the inside of the garage?
Yes, I did.
And then when you entered into the residence, what room did you end up entering into the residence from?
The room next to the garage would have been the laundry room.
And did you take photographs of that area that you entered, the laundry room?
Yes, I did.
And what was the next room that you ended up documenting as you went through the home?
The next room next to the laundry room would be the kitchen.
Did you go through each room in the house during your documentation?
Yes, I did.
I want to show you what's been marked for identification as States Exhibits 3A and 3A and B. I may approach the witness, Your Honor.
You may.
Showing you States Exhibit 3A and B, what are we looking at? What are they?
These are photographs I took of the residence.
And are those photographs of the inside of the residence or the outside?
These are of the outside.
And do those show us what the residence looked like back on June 29th of 2015?
Yes, they do.
Move to introduce States Exhibits 3A and B.
No objection, Your Honor.
Show them both admitted.
I also want to show you what's been marked for identification purposes as States Exhibits 4A through E. And ask if you can tell me what those are.
These are photographs I took of the garage of the residence.
And do those fairly show how the garage appeared on June 29th, 2015, when you were documenting the scene?
Yes, they do.
Move to introduce States Exhibits 4A through E.
No objection, Your Honor.
Show them admitted.
I want to show you what has been marked for identification as States 5A through D. And ask if you can identify those.
Yes, I can.
And what are those?
These are photographs I took of that south garage door on the south side of the residence.
Let me just show you at this point what's been marked for identification as States 6A, B, and C. Before I do that, are those photos an accurate representation of how that appeared on June 29th, 2015?
Yes, they are.
Move to admit.
No objection.
And that's 5A through D.
Yes, Your Honor.
We'll show them admitted.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as 6A, B, and C and ask if you can identify these. are 6A, B, and C?
These are photographs I took of the laundry room of the residence.
And do they fairly show that laundry room on June 29th, 2015?
Yes, I do.
Move to introduce 6A, B, and C.
No objection.
We'll show them admitted.
Now, before we go any farther, permission to publish, Your Honor?
You may proceed. Just let us know which ones you're publishing.
I will, Your Honor. I'm going to show you what has been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit Number 3A. Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
What is State's Exhibit 3A showing us?
This is a photograph I took of the front of the residence. I'm standing in the roadway outside, taking a photograph up to the residence.
And I'm going to show you what's been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit Number 3B. What is State's Exhibit Number 3B showing us?
This is the rear side of the residence. From the front of the residence, I'm standing at the back right corner of the property, and I'm photographing along the rear side of the residence.
I want to show you State's 5D. What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 5D?
This is a photograph of the south garage door from the yard. So again, standing from the front of the house, I'm actually standing on the right side of the property, looking at the south side of the residence. So this is the exterior portion of that door.
Ms. Van Waus, I'm going to hand you a laser pointer because for my next question, you're going to need it. And the little button there
Okay.
works the laser. Now, we were just talking about 5D. I want to go back and look at 3A, the front of the house. Can we see the area of 5D when we're looking at the front of the house with this photo?
The door? Is that what you're
Can
asking?
we see which side of the house?
No, it's not in this photograph. The door, there's actually a 3-car garage, and you can see a 2-car garage in this photograph. And the south side garage door is on the right side of this photograph that isn't shown.
And showing you, again, 3B, can we see at all the area or wall off of which the door, the side garage door would be found?
You can see a portion of the wall that south garage door is on. I can circle on the left side of this photograph. That's the wall that it's on is just further to the left of this photograph.
Now, showing you 5D, what are we looking at again?
This is the exterior side of that south garage door. The wall I circled in that last photograph, this is an extension of that wall towards the front of the house.
Now, you talked about how you noticed certain damage to that door. Is that correct?
Yes.
I want to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit Number 5. I think I have it upside down. 5B. 5B. What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 5B?
This is the edge of that south garage door, and you can see the damage that's present on this door at the end.
In this photograph, can we see into the garage?
Yes, you can. The left side of that photograph, you can actually see into the garage.
And can you just use the laser pointer for us? Thank you very much. And showing you State's 5C. Can you tell me what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 5C?
It's actually upside down. This is another photograph showing the damage of that south garage door. This is more of the exterior side of that door. The right side of the photograph shows the exterior side of that door, and the left side of this photograph shows slightly the inside of the garage.
to show you what's in evidence as 5A. Can you tell us why you took picture 5A and what its significance is? Why you documented 5A?
It's also upside down, sorry. This photograph shows the locking mechanisms of the door. There's actually two. There's a lock at the top and a door handle with a lock on the bottom. Both these locks are actually unlocked.
Now, you indicated that after you went through the garage, that you went through the garage before entering into the home, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
I want to show you what's been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit 4A. What do we see in State's Exhibit 4A?
This is the right side of the garage. So I told you there's a 2-car garage and a single-car garage. The single-car garage is on the right. This is the back wall of the single-car garage. And on the right side of the photograph, you can actually see that south garage door.
And could you use the laser pointer to indicate where that south garage door is on the right-hand side? And as we look at this photo, we can't see it, but can you indicate where the door into the residence would be as we're looking at this photo, roughly, since it's not in this photo?
It's on the left side of this photo. So it's actually, if this photo kept going, it would be in this general location on the left side of the photograph.
And I want to show you State's Exhibit 4B. What are we seeing in State's Exhibit 4B?
This is, again, the south side of the garage. It's the single-car garage side of that 3-car garage. And again, you can see the south garage door that we photographed. I'm circling that on the left side of the photograph. I'm actually standing in front of the entryway into the residence.
And there's a ladder that's up. Was that ladder there initially, or was that placed there by crime scene?
It was placed there by crime scene.
I want to show you State's Exhibit 4C. What are we seeing in State's Exhibit 4C?
These are items that were on the ground just in front of the doorway. So on the right side of the photograph, this door, this actually leads into the residence, into the laundry room. And the left side of the photograph shows a portion of the vehicle that was parked on the left side of the garage. And this shows a piece of luggage and items that were removed and placed on the ground in the center of the photograph.
When you arrived and were documenting the scene on June 29th, is this how you saw the suitcase placed and those items around it?
Yes, it is.
So you didn't do anything to move the items we're seeing that are
Objection
contained
leading.
Overruled.
within State's Exhibit 4C?
That was exactly how I found it when I arrived on scene.
And I want to show you State's 4D. What are we seeing in State's Exhibit 4D?
This is a close-up photograph of that piece of luggage with the items laying on the ground next to the piece of luggage.
And again, we see items that look like they might be coming out a little from what appears to be a black item to the right of the suitcase. Is that how you found those items? Is that how you found that when you were processing and documenting the scene on June 29th?
Yes, it is.
And finally, I want to show you State's Exhibit 4E. What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 4E?
This is another photograph of that back wall of the garage where things were stored. And you could also see the south garage door in this photograph.
Now, you indicated that you entered the garage door. You entered the garage after doing your walk around and examination of the outside of the home. Did you enter through the big garage doors? Did you enter through a side door? How did you enter the garage?
When I was documenting this crime scene, I did the exterior and entered through that south garage door.
And can you show does that door that you entered through show on this photograph?
Yes, it does.
Would you show to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury with the laser pointer where the door is that you walked through when you began your processing of the garage and entered into the residence?
It's on the left side of this photograph.
And were you able
I'm sorry, right side. Sorry.
I struggle with right and left too. So, that door for which you're circling the laser pointer, were you able to walk from that door to the entry door into the laundry room without moving anything?
I didn't move anything because I try not to when I'm walking through scenes, but it was a struggle. There was items on the ground that I had to walk over.
I want to show you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibits 7A through G, and ask. If, give me just a moment. And ask if you can identify them. State's Exhibit 7A through 7G. What are State's Exhibits 7A through G?
These are photographs I took of the kitchen area in the residence.
Do those photos accurately reflect how you found that kitchen area on June 29th, 2015?
Yes, it does.
Move to introduce State's Exhibits 7A through G.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes, sir. State.
Introduce State's Exhibits 7A through 7G.
All prior objections are noted for the record, overruled, will show them admitted.
You indicated that you began your entry into the residence through the laundry room. I want to show you what is in evidence as State's Exhibit 6A, and ask if you can tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what they are seeing.
This is a photograph where I'm actually standing in the doorway from the garage into the laundry room, and I'm photographing, just from my direction, the left side of the laundry room. So you see a washer and a dryer along the wall, as well as a hamper.
I want to show you State's Exhibit 6B. What are we seeing in State's Exhibit 6B?
This is the walkway through the laundry room that enters into the kitchen. So I'm standing in the garage, shooting through the doorway into the laundry room and kitchen.
And what do we see in the doorway between the laundry room and the kitchen?
There is a dog bowl, and you can also see a portion of the victim.
I want to show you what has been admitted into evidence as 6C. What is State's Exhibit 6C?
This is the alarm panel that was on the wall in the laundry room.
And what wall in the laundry room was it on?
It was from the doorway going into the laundry room from the garage. It was on the left side of the doorway. So above that hamper on that wall, it was above that hamper.
So if I were to put State's Exhibit 6A back to be viewed, can you show us where on 6A you're talking about?
So along this white area along the left side of the photograph is actually the door frame of that doorway. And around this area in the center left side of the photograph is the door or the alarm panel on the inside wall above this hamper on the bottom left portion of the photo.
Thank you. to show you what's been marked for identification as States Exhibits 8A through C, and ask if you I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit A, B, and C, and actually, I think, move to introduce it this time.
Without objection, Your Honor.
We'll show them admitted, and which ones are those again?
A, 8A, B, and C. We're looking at States Exhibit, actually, having been, let me just step over here.
And we'll show them admitted.
Let me show you what's been marked, that's introduced at States Exhibit 8A. What are we looking at in 8A?
This is a photograph of the family room of the residence, and the big piece of furniture would be the entertainment center along the wall. And you can also see on the right side of the photograph, I'll use the laser pointer. On the right side, bottom right corner, there's a section of the sectional sofa that was also in this family room. And you can also see an ottoman and an exercise ball.
Now, as we're standing, where are you standing when you're taking this photograph?
There is a small nook near the kitchen on the outer edge, and I'm actually standing in that nook photographing into the family room.
From the family room, can you look into the kitchen?
Yes.
And where is the kitchen as you're looking into it from the family room?
From, I'm sorry, what?
Where is the kitchen? If you're standing in the family room, where's the kitchen on this photograph?
On this photograph, it would be to my right. So the right,
Use your
it's at,
laser pointer
yeah.
because the right and left are top. They are.
So it's not in this photograph, but if it were in the photograph, it would be to the right in this general location. You'd be able to see a portion of the kitchen. So from my point of view in looking at the family room from this photograph, it's to my right.
I want to show you what's been marked for identification. Well, it's been introduced into evidence as 8B. What are we looking at on States 8B?
This is a coffee table that's in the center of this big sectional sofa that's in that family room.
And finally, 8C.
This is a portion of that nook that I was talking about that's next to the kitchen. There were some boxes and a piano type keyboard in this area. There was no table or anything that would normally be in a nook that was utilized with these boxes, and there was a big window of the nook that looked out onto the lanai.
From where that keyboard is, can you see the kitchen?
Yes.
And from where the keyboard is, can you see the family room?
Yes.
I wonder if the witness might step down and show the jury the pictures 7A through G individually versus on the screen.
Okay, and if counsel needs to move to get a better look, you may as well. If she's gonna step down, you may step down, ma'am.
I want you to step down, and I'm going to hand you each picture. I want you to describe for the jury what they're seeing in each of these pictures. And I'm going to start with 7F. You could hold up and show the members of the jury and let them know what they're seeing in States 7F. And maybe if you could stand someone in the middle so the jurors from...
So in this photograph, I'm actually standing in the kitchen, and I'm photographing towards the family room. So you can see a portion of the kitchen counter, as well as the entertainment center in the family room.
And so that entertainment center that you referred to as we were looking at it in States Exhibit 6, is that the same entertainment center?
Yes, it is.
Now, I want to show you State 7E, and if you could tell us what we're seeing, but also the perspective of where you're standing and in relation to the direction of 7F.
Okay. This, again, I'm standing in the kitchen, and I'm photographing towards the front door of the residence. So you can see a portion of the kitchen counter. in the photograph, as well as what's beyond the kitchen counter to my left if I'm facing the family room. So this would be towards the front of the residence, kitchen counter.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 7A. If you could describe what the members of the jury are seeing and from where the photo is taken, the perspective and angle.
This photograph shows the victim, Dr. Teresa Sievers, on the kitchen floor. I am standing in the kitchen, photographing the center of the kitchen, trying to get the entire floor and what you see on the floor.
And 7B, what are we seeing in 7B?
This is a close-up photograph of a red-handled hammer that is found on the floor near the victim in the kitchen.
Seven C, what are the members of the jury seeing on 7C?
This is a photograph of Teresa Sievers' wallet that's lying on the floor of the kitchen. It had identification and cards inside the wallet belonging to her. There's also numerous receipts on the floor around the wallet.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what we see in 7D and where that is in the kitchen.
This is a photograph of the inside of the pantry. So standing in the nook, it would be straight ahead. So from the laundry room, walking into the kitchen and be on my right.
I want to show you State's Exhibit 7G. First, before you show it to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this how you saw Teresa Sievers when you were in the scene doing your initial documentation?
Yes, it is.
And do we see in that the wallet that you just referred to from in photograph 7C?
Yes, you do.
You would show the ladies and gentlemen what the jury 7G.
The wallet is on the right side of the photograph.
I want to show what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit 9A through E. Your Honor, there's no objection from the defense. State would move to admit 9A through E at this time.
That's correct, Your Honor, without objection.
We'll show them admitted.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 9A. What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 9A?
This room I labeled a sitting room, but it is also utilized somewhat as an office. You can see, do you want me to describe what's in it? Okay, sorry. There, on the left side of this photograph, there's a desk with a computer. Straight ahead is a bookcase, and on the right side is a couch.
And where in the home is this particular office area?
When walking through the front doors of the residence, it's directly to your right.
State's Exhibit 9B, what are we looking at with State's Exhibit 9B?
This is a close-up photograph of the laptop that was on the small desk on the left side of the last photograph in that same sitting room.
So I'm going to put back up State's Exhibit 9A, and if you would just show us where that laptop is. So that's the laptop we saw in 9B.
Yes.
And then I'm going to show you 9C. What are we looking at in 9C?
This is another photograph of the desk. You can see a portion of that same laptop that was in the last photograph, as well as some documents and a picture and other items on the desk.
And State's Exhibit 9D, what are we looking at in 9D?
This, I'm actually standing in that same sitting room. So on the left side of the photograph are those front doors. You can see open doors to the right of the front door. Those go into an office. To the right of those, the laser.
Thank you very much.
So the left side of the photograph are front doors. So this would be the foyer. This doorway in the center of the photograph goes into an office with double doors. To the right of those double doors is a hallway that leads to the master bedroom and bathroom. On the right side of this photograph is the dining room with sliding glass doors that go out onto the lanai.
And State's Exhibit 9E, what are we looking at in 9E?
This is a photograph of that same piece of furniture, I would call it a hutch, on the wall of the dining room, and it was in the last photograph as well.
So if I put this one back up very quickly. If I put this photograph, 9D, back up very quickly, that is the same hutch we saw in 9D.
Yes, it's on the right side of this photograph. That's the hutch that's in the close-up photograph.
I want to show you now what's been marked as evidence as 10A through Q. 10A through Q. The defense having no objection, the state moves to introduce state's exhibits 10A through 10Q.
That's correct, Your Honor, I have no objection.
We'll show them admitted.
I want to start with state's 9D that we were looking at just a moment ago. You mentioned doors that went into, double doors. How did you refer to the doors that we see kind of in the center? I don't know if it's left or.
I'd said towards the center of the picture. There, I said it, double doors into the office.
The double doors into the office. I want to show you now what is in evidence as state's exhibit number 10A and ask you if you can tell me what state's exhibit 10A is.
This is a photograph showing those double doors going into the office. I'm actually standing between the foyer and the dining room in this for this photograph.
Now, when you arrived and did your initial documentation of the home at 27034 Jarvis Road, were these doors open?
Yes.
Did you, when you were doing this documentation, taking your photographs?
No, I did not.
Want to show you states 10D. What are we looking at?
I'm actually standing in those double doors, the doorway for those double doors, and I'm starting to document the entire room. So this is the right portion of the room. You can see on the left side of this photograph, this is a desk that's in the center of the room. These doors on the right side of the photograph go into a closet, and then you can see that there's stuff all over the floor and on top of tables.
States 10C. States 10C.
I'm continuing to document the entire overall inside of this office. It's actually two desks, but I call it an L-shaped desk in my, when I'm describing it. This desk is below a window. On the left side of this photograph, there's a window, and this desk, and this is that center desk on the right corner of this photograph is the desk that you saw in the last photograph when you walk in. It's in the center of the room.
So when you're talking about a center desk, can you show, does the center desk show on this particular photo 10B?
You can see this portion that I'm circling. This is the front side of that desk, and then this is all the items that are on top of that desk.
States 10D, what is this photo showing us?
It's showing the items on top of the desk, and I wanted to make sure that I show that there was money on top of the desk.
States 10E.
This is another photograph showing the overall layout of this office. You can see this is the longer portion of that L-shaped desk that I described, and this is that window that I described earlier.
I'm going to go back to states 10C. Do we see any electronic devices in 10C?
Yes.
What electronic devices do we see?
There's a computer monitor, and there is also a computer underneath, and I believe that's a printer on the right side of the photograph.
When you say a computer monitor underneath, can you give us a sense with the laser pointer where we're talking?
The monitor is on top of the desk, and the computer, the actual CPU, the tower, I believe was underneath the desk.
And you said that you thought there might be did you say a scanner?
There's something on the right side of this photograph. I don't know if it's a scanner, a printer, or a combo.
Show you 10F. What is States Exhibit 10F showing us?
So this photograph is, I'm in the office to the left. So I walked in and kind of went to the left a little bit, and I'm photographing along the left wall of this office. And in this photograph, I was documenting the jug of money.
And so I show you 10G. Is that a close-up of the jug of money?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to show you States Exhibit 10H. As we look at this photograph, can we see where the dining room was that we looked at in earlier photographs?
Yes.
And where is that dining room using your laser pointer?
In the top center portion of this photograph, you can actually see the dining room table through the double doors. Because I'm standing in the center of the office.
I want to show you States Exhibit 10I. What do we see in States Exhibit 10I?
So as I'm documenting the residence, I'm opening drawers and documenting inside drawers as well. This is one of the drawers of that center desk, and I pulled it open to document the money inside the desk drawer.
10J.
This is a video camera that was found while going through the closet of that office, and there's a marker establishing its marker number for that piece of evidence.
Photograph
This is a photograph of frame U.S. currency, money, and it's above the closet in the office. I was documenting that there was money present.
10L. What do we see in 10L?
This is a document shredder that was found in the office, and the blue gloves are holding a document that were stuck in the sharp edges of that shredder that was pulled out and documented.
Is 10M a close-up of what we were seeing in 10L?
Yes, it is.
And 10N, even another close-up?
Yes, I was photographing where the paperwork was from.
State's Exhibit 10O. What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 10O?
These are items that were documented underneath the L-shaped desk in that office, which was below the window. And I was photographing the holster and the ammunition that was underneath the desk.
So I want to show you 10P and ask you what we see in 10P.
This is a close-up photograph of the firearm holster and live ammunition.
Finally, I want to show you State's Exhibit 10Q. What are we looking at in 10Q?
This is another overall photograph showing the layout of the room, the contents, and how it was found when I arrived on scene of the, again, this is mostly the L-shaped desk as well as a file cabinet, and the window is at the top of the photograph.
And this photograph, 10Q, represents how you saw the office when you first arrived and began your documentation.
Yes, it does.
You didn't move or place any of those papers on the floor?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
In this photograph, I had not moved anything. I was documenting it as is how I got on scene that day.
I want to show you what's been marked for identification as 11A through C. I'm going to show you what, Your Honor, State moves to introduce 11A through C and State's Exhibit 21 without objection.
Defense has no objection, Your Honor.
Show 11A through C admitted and 21.
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to show you what's been introduced into evidence as State's 11A. What is 11A?
This is an overall photograph I took of the master bedroom of the residence.
And is that the master bed? Is that the bedroom that was through the doors we saw on the picture from the hallway?
Yes, it was the hallway that's next to the office.
I see in 11A a suitcase. Is that the same suitcase we saw in an earlier photo?
It's the same design, just not the same suitcase.
So let me go back to the suitcase we saw in the garage very quickly. Referring to State's Exhibit 4C. Did the suitcases have the same that we see in 4C and the suitcase we see in 11A? Did they have the same pattern?
Yes, they did.
How would you describe the size of the suitcase in 11A compared to the size of the suitcase we saw in 4C?
This one that you can see on the screen now is smaller. I would say that that's kind of like the carry-on version of a set of luggage. And the one that's in the master bedroom is the larger one because there was also a medium one inside.
So you said there was a medium one inside. Was there something inside that suitcase that later on you came after your documentation to proceed?
I wanted to document inside this luggage, so I opened it and photographed inside, which was the medium-sized piece of luggage that matched in this set.
I want to show you State's Exhibit 11B. What are we seeing in State's Exhibit 11B?
This is the south closet in the master bedroom, which had primarily female clothing, so this would be Teresa Sievers' closet.
Did the closet look at all like it had been ransacked?
No, it did not.
I want to show you State's Exhibit 11C. What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 11C?
This is the north closet in the master bedroom, which had primarily male clothing, so I would say that this would be Mr. Sievers' closet.
Can you see or can you show to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Let me withdraw that. Did you find any safes in this particular closet?
I found 4 safes in this closet.
And using the laser pointer, could you identify for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where those safes were in this closet?
There were 3 safes on the right side of this closet from orientation of how this photograph is. There's 3 safes on the right and a tall safe on the left-hand side.
And when you were documenting this closet, were those safes locked or were they open?
They were locked, all of them.
Now, did you find any safes in the office?
There was a small safe in the office.
And was that small safe in the office opened or was it locked at the time you were doing your documentation?
I believe it was unlocked. It was closed but unlocked.
I want to show you State's Exhibit number 21. What is State's Exhibit number 21?
This is a photograph I took of the guest room. So in this house, there was I call it a guest suite, I guess. There was a bedroom, down a little hallway, and a bathroom kind of in its own little corner of this residence. And in this bedroom, there was a piece of furniture with a TV, and I'm documenting inside that bedroom.
Were there also other bedrooms in this house?
Yes.
Were you able to determine if they were the bedrooms of young children?
Yes, they were.
Did you document those bedrooms with photographs?
Yes, I did.
Did you find anything in those bedrooms of any evidentiary value pertaining to this case?
No, I did not.
You indicated that in your documentation, you often create, or always, I don't know whether it was often or always, create a diagram of a crime scene.
Yes, I did in this case, yes.
And did you create one in this case?
Yes, I did.
I want to show you what is being marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 2. I'm going to just hold it up for you right now. Is this the crime scene, is this an enlargement of the crime scene diagram you made for 27034 Jarvis Road?
Yes, it is.
And does this fairly represent where the various rooms were found in this house?
Yes, it does.
Move to introduce State's Exhibit number 2.
No objection.
Show it admitted.
Your Honor, I ask that the witness be able to step down and use this particular exhibit to clarify for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where the various rooms and items were found in the house.
Witness may step down, and defense counsel, you can move if you need to see.
All right, Ms. Van Waus, I'm going to hand you the red.
I want to go through the state's various photos that have been introduced as evidence, and I want you to place where they are on this diagram and describe to the ladies and gentlemen the angle at which they're viewing these particular photographs. And I'm going to start with what was introduced as State 9D. And I want once you've seen it, I want the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to see 9D.
I'm sorry, 9.
9D.
Thank you.
Delta. 9D.
Thank you.
Where is 9D on that diagram?
So in that photograph, I'm standing in the sitting room, which is here in this photograph, and I'm photographing towards the foyer, showing the foyer, the office doors, and I believe that hallway and the dining room. So I'm standing here photographing in that direction.
So if you could mark, put the 9D and perhaps a few arrows that show one where you're standing and then the direction at what the ladies and gentlemen would be seeing in 9D.
So I'll put 9D as where I'm standing. And I am photographing out, showing those.
10A. If you could show the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where you were standing and the direction at which they are looking.
So I'm standing between the foyer and the dining room for this photograph, and I'm photographing into the office. That was 10D.
10D. No, 10A. 10A.
Two arrows for my field of view. So I'm standing and I'm photographing into the office doors.
Now, I want to show you State's Exhibit 9A. 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 Where were you standing and what was your view of what you were seeing?
In 9A, I'm actually standing in the foyer and I'm photographing into the sitting room.
All right, 9A. 9A. 9A.
So I am trying to show a nice overall of that sitting room and everything that's in it.
Now, we talked about here there was a desk with a computer on it. Can you just mark a C for where the computer was in that sitting room?
This is the desk with the chair, and there's the computer in the center of that desk.
I want to show you 10Q. Where in the, if you could show us where you're standing and the view of what we are seeing in the office. 10Q.
So I'm standing kind of in the center from this diagram, I'm on the right of that desk. And I'm just photographing overall of this portion of the office. So again, this is my field of view, I'm just showing everything on that desk.
Now, we saw in picture 10, give me just a moment. We saw in 10, let me start with this one. We saw in State's Exhibit 10G, a big, glass container of money. Where is 10G in the office? Can you just designate where this big jug of money is in the office?
It's on this wall. I'm just going to put a circle with a money sign.
And that's 10G. You can just write a little 10G beside it.
So it's along that wall in the office.
All right. And then you talked about, when we were looking at photos, there was a photo with money, with a framed money that was over some doors in the office. Where was that photo in the office?
This
right here where it says closet, this is the closet of the office, and these are the doors that are enter into that closet. It's actually above those doors, so I can't do it on this diagram, but it was above the area, above the word closet.
And we also talked about there was a shredder in which a document was, so let me just take 10K. 10K, if you could put a 10K above the closet. And you also spoke about a shredder, a shredder from which a life insurance policy was removed. Where was that shredder in the office? And that's 10L.
So the shredder was actually next to the jug of money. So it was along the same wall in the office. Next to that jug of money.
Now, we also talked about the master bedroom, or the main bedroom, 11A, photograph 11A. Can you show us where photograph 11A, where we're looking at in the house, and again, the direction from which you are taking the photograph?
So I'm standing, I call it the north bedroom because I do directionality in my diagrams, but it is the master bedroom with the attached bathrooms. So the north bedroom is the master bath, or bedroom in this case. I'm actually standing in the doorway for this. I'm sorry, what's the number?
The number is 11A.
And I'm photographing into the room. I'm trying to show an overall of this bedroom.
And then we saw photographs of two of the closets. Can you just mark where those closets were that we saw?
There's two closets on either side of a walkway going into the bathroom. This is the male clothing closet, and this is the female clothing closet. So I don't know if you want to look
Can
at
you just write male and female in each closet? You also talked about a guest room, I think you said, States Exhibit 21. Where was States Exhibit 21? Where do we see that particular bedroom?
the guest bedroom in this diagram is the southeast bedroom. So I kept calling it a suite because there's a doorway from the family room that goes into this section of the house where it has its own bedroom, closet, and bathroom. So I was calling this a guest suite. So this is actually a photograph of this rectangle in the diagram, which is a chest of drawers with a TV on top.
Can you just mark 21 again with your arrows so that we have a sense of now you spoke about the family room, or family room. I want to show you what's in evidence, States Exhibit 8A. If you could show us where that photo was taken, the direction, so we know what we're looking at in 8A.
8A, I'm in this general, I mean, I don't know exactly where I'm standing, but this is the general location and what I'm photographing.
So in 8A, the photograph, we see a doorway leading off of the, I guess, left-hand side?
The photo, yes, that's this doorway right here, which is going into that guest suite quarters of this residence.
So on 8A, we can see that doorway going into the guest suite's quarters. Now, we also talked about two bedrooms that belong to the girls, the daughters. Can you just show us where on this diagram those bedrooms were?
On the right side of this diagram, central bedroom and southwest bedroom, these are the two bedrooms that had little girls' bedding and furniture and clothes and books and everything. So these two bedrooms were the children's bedrooms.
I want to show you States Exhibit 6B.
C,
B, B as in boy.
thank you.
6B. Where are we standing in 6B? And what's the direction that you are looking?
So 6B, I'm standing in the garage at the doorway, and I'm photographing through this doorway, showing the overall walkway through the laundry room into the kitchen.
In 6B, we see I think you call it dog bowls or water bowls. Can you just put like a little circle where those water dog bowls might have been, not might have been, were?
It was one of those pedestal dog dishes that had a water and food, and it was blocking the doorway somewhat.
I want to show you State's Exhibit 8C, which was the electronic piano, and you talked about it being in a nook. Where is the electronic, where is 8C in this picture?
So here's the kitchen, off of the kitchen is the nook, and you can see the large window in this photograph is this angled portion of this diagram, and that piano is, I mean, on the, just along right there.
And if you could just put the number 8C right beside that, that would be great, thank you. I want to show you what's in evidence as 7E. E is in Edward, 7E.
Thank you.
7E.
From 7E, I'm standing in the kitchen and I'm photographing out of the kitchen into this foyer, office, dining room, sitting room area. Just, again, I'm showing the overall layout of the residence.
Now, I think in 7E, we see just a little bit of blood. It looks like by a refrigerator. How is the refrigerator designated in your diagram?
Yes, it is. It's the box with an R.
Now, I want to show you 7F, 7F. If you could mark where, the perspective of where you're standing and the direction we're looking in 7F.
So I'm standing in the kitchen and I'm photographing towards that family room.
Now, you found in the kitchen a hammer and you found a wallet. Can you mark where on this diagram you found a hammer and you found a wallet? And put a W for wallet and an H for hammer? If you could just describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where you saw it.
So the hammer, when you walked into the kitchen, there's a pantry. Again, this is estimate. You can see in a photograph exactly what it is. But it was inside the kitchen to the right a little bit. The wallet was further into the kitchen, closer to the family room side of that kitchen. And it, again, was on the floor in the kitchen.
So I'm going to show you states 7B, the hammer. Can you mark it 7B beside where you placed the hammer? And I'm going to show you 7C, which is the wallet. Can you just place a 7C near where the wallet was? Let me ask you one more question for you. The 7D, the pantry. Can you show the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where the pantry is in this photograph?
The off from the corner of the kitchen, and it's labeled pantry.
And if you could put 7D as in Delta.
Thank you.
Now, you also photographed Teresa Sievers on the kitchen floor. Could you just indicate, perhaps with a line, where you saw Teresa Sievers, where her body is in this photograph, and put an arrow for the direction of her head?
I have 7 E's in the way a little bit, but
And would you just mark a TS beside that arrow? And I guess finally, you talked about the garage door that you photographed. I think those photographs were, I think in the fours. Can you just mark where the garage side door is then, through which you saw the pry marks on the door and which you entered when you were coming into the garage?
what would you like to mark it as?
I'm sorry.
What would you like me to mark it as?
Well, you can start on the outside as 5D, from the outside of the door, and that would be just fine.
Is that an exterior photo?
That's an exterior photo. Thank you very much, if you could reveal your seat. Your Honor, may I approach the clerk?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, after your initial documentation and your assessment as you were documenting, did you begin to collect evidence?
Yes, I did.
And did you collect a hammer?
Yes, I did.
I want to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit Number 12.
What is State's Exhibit Number 12?
This is Lee County Sheriff's Office property number 15P016373, and this is a hammer from marker number 1.
And
Is that the hammer that you collected from the floor of the kitchen
Yes, it is.
on June 29th of 2015?
Yes, it is.
Move to introduce.
We'll show it admitted.
Would you open, and it may already be open for you, but would you open State's Exhibit Number 12 and show the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the hammer?
Your
Some
gloves.
gloves. I need some gloves, please.
We'll get you some.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm okay to publish?
Yes. Or do you want me to continue?
I'm sorry?
I have a bit more. Do you want me to continue, or do you want to take it after? I'm just asking.
Well, I was going to wait till we got to cross to ask, but since it's been brought up, do any of our jurors need to use the restroom at this time, or I see multiple hands. I will ask you to not talk about the case among yourselves or with anybody else, or look up any of the people or places involved, and we'll give everybody 5 minutes, including everybody out here, and we'll be with you very shortly.
Leave your notepads, please, follow me.
Please be seated. Okay, 5 minutes or so. You can step down if you want to. Do you want to get rid of your gloves?
Oh, please.